Thank you. Thank you very much, Tony. I am really glad to be here with all of you. I thank Tony, I thank Joanne, I thank Eric for combining the committees, and just all of you for being here. Let me just say I'm sorry for being late. We were actually, I was at GE Aviation before this in Hooksett, and we did an employee town hall, and they had tons of questions. It was great. So it was like almost like the town halls I normally do, and it was good, but I had to answer their questions, so it ended up going later than we anticipated. But I'm really glad to be here with you, and it's great to see the trooper we ran this morning, didn't we? So thank you. We started the day real early with a run for Special Olympics, the torch run from the natural leg to Merrimack, and it was pouring rain, but it was a good cause. So I am glad to be here with all of you. I see a lot of friends that I know, and I see some people that I just met for the first time, and I look forward to being able to say hello to all of you personally. This is, Washington is still broken, unfortunately, and I know that when I ran in 2010, I want nothing more than to get the chance to do some of the things that need to be done for this country. Some of them I've had a chance to do, and sometimes it means voting no, and some things we really need to get done. And number one priority, I'll tell you, for our country, we need to fire Harry Reid. Why do we need to fire Harry Reid? First of all, thinking about the basics of democracy, and I talked about this even at GE, and somebody had asked me about it, which is, right now, I've said before, the US Senate has gone from being the most deliberative body in the world to the my way or the highway body. And whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, the people elect their representative to actually represent their viewpoints. You're going to agree with me sometimes, you're going to disagree with me sometimes, but also to shape legislation when it comes to the Senate floor. What that means is legislation needs to be fully debated. We need to be able to offer amendments on the legislation. If I have a good idea on a piece of legislation, then on your behalf, on the people of New Hampshire, I should be able to bring it and get a vote on it. And that goes the same for my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. So we have a fundamental problem right now with the democracy in terms of how the US Senate has been operating. And this is why this is so important, because as I look at, we have a Senate race coming up. When I look at the Senate races that are going on across the nation that are very important, a new majority leader where we let the Senate operate in the way that our founding fathers intended it to operate under the Constitution, so that the people of this country, their viewpoints can be represented, and that when I have an idea, I get a vote on it. And guess what? If people don't like it and I can't convince my colleagues, then it gets voted down. That's how democracy works. And if somebody has a good idea and it makes sense, guess what? It probably passes, and that's how democracy works. But right now, we're in a situation where literally there are no votes being allowed on things in the Senate because the majority leader is really misusing his position. As the majority leader, the right of first priority, and so he kind of fills everything up so that no one else can offer their idea. So as I look at the upcoming elections, that's a very important issue for the country as a whole. So some of the things we can get done, that we need to get done for the country in terms of the fiscal state of the country, the regulatory state of the country, meaning what's happening to our businesses, and Obamacare. Those issues really, think about those issues and what's at stake for the country. There's so much at stake. So that's where, where I think, as I look at the focus and thinking about these committee and your energy, and that means, obviously people at every level. I know some of the people who are here today are running for state senate or executive council, state rep, all different positions, but we need good people at every level to be able to get things done for the country and to really be focused on fiscal responsibility, limited accountable government, the Constitution, the things that matter to our party and are very important to our party and to the country, and making sure that we can be in a position to govern the Republican Party so that when we govern, we can get things done, make a difference for our principles, and put them into action. And everyone here can make a difference for that, because I know there's a lot of energy in this room in terms of the grassroots activists and people who can make a difference for the country. So I hope you'll get engaged in that in the election for whomever you're supporting, but get engaged, don't sit on the sidelines, because there is too much at stake for the country as a whole. So glad to be here with you, and happy to answer some questions, but also want to get around and hopefully chat with you all for, I hope, a few minutes. And I thank you for the privilege of representing you. It's really a privilege, and I wake up every day with a sense of purpose, even when you feel like it's very frustrating sometimes. So thank you.
Before I ask the question, I have really two questions, non-political and political. On Monday, you were in the eastern Ukraine, one of the international monitors for the presidential election.
Yes.
Yesterday, you're back in the United States with a full schedule. Today, you're here today. What type of vitamins are you taking? It's phenomenal. I don't know how you do this.
I am the mother of 2 young children, so I don't have a choice. That's just, you know, that's just part of my makeup there. So.
Would you mind saying a few words on the importance of the Ukraine, the situation that's going on there, not only for the United States, but the rest of the world?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, let's just think back historically for a moment. The reasoning that Vladimir Putin used to go and take Crimea, and then also what he's been saying in terms of the rhetoric dealing with eastern Ukraine, has been, I'm going to go in and protect the rights of Russian-speaking individuals. Well, and therefore I'm going to invade another country. We have a little history with that going back to World War II. And when we've ignored, when you look back, and I'm not saying that there's a direct analogy between Putin and Hitler, let's just be clear. They're different people, and that's not what I'm saying. But it's very important that we understand that when someone like Putin feels that he can just go into another country without consequences, that really has threats to the post-World War II order in terms of security throughout Europe. And if people like Putin, other rogue leaders around the world feel there are no consequences for their actions when it comes to just invading the sovereign territory of another country, failing to deal with that, Crimea or eastern Ukraine, leads to bigger problems and can lead to people feeling like there aren't consequences for their actions. And I'm really worried about that right now. I'm really worried about the perception that people have right now of America around the world. And this is a perception that our allies feel like they're not sure about where we stand. They're not sure whether we'll be there to support them. And our enemies feel, I think, more emboldened. And what that really goes back to is if you say something as the United States of America, you actually have to do it. And that you shouldn't say it if you're not prepared to do it. And that's fair. And so we've got a situation right now where in Ukraine it does matter. And these people, when I was there over the weekend, what they want is basically to be free from Russian interference and to decide their own future. Kind of basic, what the rest of us would want to for our own country, you know. And they actually appreciate America, so it's interesting. It's not like you're in a place where they don't like America. They love America. And they don't, many of them came out in droves in this election because they want to push back on Russian aggression and really want to stand up for their own ability to decide their own future. So I was glad to be there. In fact, the first ballot that we saw, I was in Kiev overseeing the election. An older man came in, gentleman. He was the first guy to Pat to put in his ballot, and what he did was, he put the ballot in, and he said, "For democracy," and he started clapping. And I thought, wow, this is the things we take for granted. See, this is the thing. The things we take for granted, often in our own country, basic functioning of our democracy, are things that we can never take for granted. It makes you appreciate that.
Let's
Yes.
go more questions, please, and let Kelly go around.
Yes, I'll try to be shorter in a couple more, I want to make sure I get some questions, I'll try to be shorter in my answers, but I'm kind of passionate about that one. I knew you had a question
Yeah.
too, and I know David has a question.
Well, first of all, thanks for coming. My name is Caleb Jacobs, and I was the first vice chair here in this committee 4 or 5 years ago. I'm a business, employ 3 people, so volunteer is a big thing in my...
Huge issue, yep.
Yeah, huge issue. And I know your stance on immigration, so I'll just preface it by saying I will vote for you again, because I agree with you most of the time. I just want to offer this up. I understand why you would say, what are we going to do with 12 million people? I understand that. I'm a former law enforcement officer too, and the trooper will probably say, and my old boss, Walt Morris, would probably say,
The sheriff, it's great to see the sheriff. Hey, sheriff.
he'd probably say that the object is not to get every speeder, the object is not to get every drunk driver, it's to make an example out of a few. A few perp walks of, employers that employ illegal aliens, I think would be a good start. We don't do that. We still have an agreement from the Reagan days of amnesty that we built a wall. We still haven't done that. So I would just propose to you, why don't we do some of the things we promised we would do in the first place before we let them off?
Well, I want to secure our borders, and I also want to figure out how are we going to be in a position where we stop have people coming over. So I'm with you on not only more fencing, frankly, more technology is actually often even more effective than fencing. Drones, things that we can use in the border that can more effectively secure what we're doing now. And enforcement, so E-Verify we should have. In a way that we don't have now. It's a pilot system, it needs to be more effective, it needs to be universal. To clamp down on some people come here for reasons that we need to make sure that they're never here. Some people are coming here for employment, but if employers can't employ them, then that's one way to dry that up as well. And so I hear what you're saying. I just feel like it's a real problem that if we don't try to do something to solve it, then it's only going to get worse. And that's why I've been interested in this issue. And I think we've got an illegal immigration problem that we've got to address, and a legal immigration problem. Because we've got a legal immigration system that needs to be reformed too. It's not working for us. It needs to be focused on our needs. It needs to be focused on making sure that the people really we're inviting here legally are going to help us grow our economy. And that's traditionally what's made us strong, is that the people have come here and wanted to be part of our economy. David?
I want to also thank you for coming. It's a great privilege to have you here. We've been looking forward to seeing you again. I just have a real quick question. Obama and Harry Reid have been so lawless and breaking the Constitution everywhere. Why isn't Congress doing something to stop them?
Well, the things that we have, first of all, number one way to stop this is to win elections. Let's not kid ourselves. So that's where everyone in this room matters. That's why I started with time for new leadership in the Senate. Time for new leadership in 2016 for the presidency. That said, putting that issue aside for a minute, there are 2 ways. Number one, Congress doesn't always have standing to bring a lawsuit. So that's why I am supporting legislation that was originally introduced in the House by Trey Gowdy and has also been introduced in the Senate that I'm a co-sponsor of, that would actually give us more standing to bring legal challenges when we feel that the Constitution has been infringed on by the executive branch. For example, in the executive orders, filing executive orders and not. So that I think is important, but obviously we can't pass that kind of legislation without enough people to do it. Then also, our other avenue is to bring legal challenges. There's one that was brought, that it's an important decision, that I think will be coming out, it's been argued, and we'll hear it before the end of June, because the Supreme Court has to announce all of its decisions by the end of June, and that is the illegal recess appointments that were made for the NLRB and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That was challenged in court by a private business, not the Congress, that was affected by the NLRB rulings, took that up to the United States Supreme Court. We in the Senate Republicans, I joined in on an amicus brief stating our views that the president had violated the recess powers by making these appointments. We wanted the lower court level, and so the Supreme Court's already heard arguments. I think we're going to win at the Supreme Court, which will be important because it sets a precedent as to limit what the president's power is here in terms of the Congress's power and the president's power. Within our system, the only legitimate way to challenge this is through the constitutional system, which means you bring a lawsuit, you bring it up to the Supreme Court, and you have the actions of the executive ruled unconstitutional. And, or we obviously win elections. We can control standing on things, so if we could pass legislation giving us broader standing, giving us our ability to bring it up to the Supreme Court. But that's the way our system works, and I respect it. It's our separation of powers, and so those are the things that we can do, we have done, and we'd like to be able to do more. It's just often we don't have the ability to.
We're going to let Senator Ayotte move around the room and meet everyone. As you know, this was a meet and greet, and we appreciate everybody.
Yeah, but I'll